privileged to hear from a true citizen, from נחמה Shackey. Thank you.
Shalom, ברוכות הבאות for this convention. I'm so privileged to stand here and to talk to you because the feeling that I have is that Abraham Avinu was the first one to be a Jew, and the Rebbe was the first one to set an example of what a shaliach is. And I'm so privileged and feel this merit to stand here next to you and to tell you our story, that maybe if we collect all the stories, we can put a big encyclopedia how, Baruch Hashem, the Jewish life is really survived and spread throughout the world. So our story starts few months after we got married. In Israel, it was a big issue of who is a Jew. A question that they never asked 2,000 years in the diaspora. Everyone knew who is a Jew. If one was born to a Jewish mother or was converted according to the halacha. But here, and in Eretz Israel, this issue came and raised one after the other. The first one was a priest by the name Daniel Rufeisen. Actually, he was born as a Jew, but he came and he asked all the rights for the Jewish country that gives the permit to a Jew of return. Now he said that he was born as a Jew, but now he decided to be a priest, and this is his decision. The Supreme Court, of course, didn't accept his reasons, and they throw him out. But the main issue in Israel raised at 68 when Benjamin Shalit, he was a lieutenant in the IDF, in the army, Tzahal, and he married to a non-Jew. They had 2 children, and he asked why you are going to discriminate our children. I'm giving my life to this country. I was born as a Jew, and no one will tell me to whom to marry to. I married to a woman that I love. Shackey at that time, my late husband, was a doctor in the Tel Aviv University, but as a personal Jew with a hot and good heart, he understood that if the Supreme Court, Chas v'Chalila, will accept his demands, Chas v'Chalila, the country will split to 2. Because we as Jews would like to have our children to marry only to Jews all over the generation. And Benjamin Shalit presented his case to the Supreme Court. And Shackey went from one neighborhood to another city, from Metula to Eilat, to explain that this is very, very dangerous for the people of Israel, that Baruch Hashem returned after 2,000 years and create a beautiful country. And after 2 months they didn't married, we had someone that knocked on our doors at 2 after midnight, and we looked at the peephole, and it was a Rav, and he said, I'm a lawyer, Mr. Gepner, from Bnei Brak. Sorry for the late hour, but I'm coming from a Yechidut with the Rebbe, and he told me, you are not going back home before you go to the Shaaki residence and you said them our blessing. And sorry, I'm so tired, and I'm sure even at this late hour you will accept this blessing from the Rebbe. And of course, we were very, very pleased and thank the Rebbe for that. And as he said, the blessing worked immediately, miraculously. After 2 months, our Sheakey was appointed as Vice Minister of Education in the government of Israel. Now, the case of Benjamin Shalit went on in the Supreme Court, and when someone invited us to come to the United States during this beautiful and very privileged job that Avner got to be the Vice Minister of Education of Eretz Israel, so we were invited to come for the first time to the Rebbe, and he told us to come at 12 after midnight. When we came, you know, for the first time, you only hear, you only know, and then you are there. And when we came in, the opening of the Rebbe was so full of love and full of hugging us. And then, after half an hour, the Rav Klein, Alav Shalom, came in and he thought maybe it's too much. And the Rebbe raised his hand, and Rabbi Klein understood that he is not allowed to come in. And after 3 hours, we were out. It was almost 3 after midnight. And I will never forget this merit, privilege to be with the Rebbe. So, of course, we discussed about so many matters in the country, and we happened to speak French. I was in Paris, and Avner was a scholar, as an academic scholar. He knew perfectly French, and we went back to Israel. After 2 years, Benjamin Shalit case came to, and they decided, the Supreme Court, 9 judges sat for this case. 5 against 4 decided that Benjamin Shalit kids will be registered as Jews. And this was terrible, of course, for as a decision. But thank God, we have the Knesset that set the law in Israel, and they are higher from the Supreme Court. Of course, you know, the government was directed by Golda Meir, and they were 100 against 20 that didn't want to change the law of return and to point that a Jew will be recognized as one that made his giyur after the halacha. And when the case came to the Knesset, it was very, very, very hectic day, very hectic week, and the time came that that he had to come in for to vote, and then he got a telephone call, and Rabbi Groner asked him that the Rebbe wants to ask him, please go and vote with the opposition against the coalition. And Avner explained, it is so pity, chaval, because as a Vice Minister of Education, he changed so many good things in the ministry. Like, first of all, he put transportation to all Chabad schools throughout the country, which they didn't have before. And secondly, he said that every kid in Israel has to have the same situation, דתיים, חילוניים, ספרדים, אשכנזים, and he worked so beautifully because the Minister of Education at that time was Yigal Alon. Now his head was in politics with Moshe Dayan, but Avner She'aki, as an academic person, he could do whatever he wanted in the ministry. And Avner explained to the Rebbe that all this will be stopped. And the Rebbe asked him, please, this is a Kiddush Hashem, Mesirut Nefesh. Now, Avner She'aki went to the hall of the Knesset, with 100 against 20, couldn't change the law, but Avner followed and he stood up like the Rebbe asked him, and he voted against the coalition. The result was that he had a letter of resignation from the government. You cannot vote against the government and remain in the post. So, of course, he went and he resigned. The Rebbe invited us to come to New York and to 770. And because Avner had to go back to work, he was not anymore in the government, and the university started a day after Sukkot. We say that we can come only Chol HaMoed Sukkot. And they told us before asking the Rebbe, and he said, the Rebbe is not accepting never at Tishrei, betach lo in Chol HaMoed Sukkot. So we say, this is what we can do. And 5 minutes later, we got a telephone, and Rabbi Klein said, yes, the Rebbe said, you are invited to come to us. And it was, I will never forget these wonderful moments that I will cherish as really a very happy picture in my life. And all the Hasidim took my husband and danced around the building of 770 before we came in. What happened is that when we came in, the Rebbe stood up and he blessed my husband so much, and our family, and whatever we have. And it was really touching, and of course we stayed there another 2.5 hours with the Rebbe. Before we left, the Rebbe, he saw in my face and he said, your husband is like a sportsman. In order to get momentum, you need to go back. So this is the situation now. Your husband now is going back, but he will multiplicate his situation and bekefel kiflaim, as you will see in a minute. And of course, I went out and I say it's beautiful words, but in the politics in Israel, it never happened, and I even dreamt that it will be happening. So, but the Rebbe blessed, and we know exactly that his word is coming from Ruach HaKodesh. And b'diuk 12 years later, the 12 steps back, it happens that the Mafdal, the National Religious Party that he was a member, they had terrible polls, and they were afraid from the result of the votes, and they asked him to come back. And he asked for one condition. Thank you. He asked for one condition, and he said, only if you are going to have national votes. Now, the day of the polls, and they said, who is this academic person that came from the university, and he is now challenging all the politics in the party? He will never get more than 3.3%. And Baruch Hashem, Bis'ata Dishmaya, as the Rebbe blessed, he got 60%, and he became the head of the party. Then, it's only half of the blessing, because the Rebbe said, Bekefel Kiflaim. And this what happened. He left the post of Vice Minister of Education, but he became a minister in the Prime Minister office and the religion department. So, I want to show you the video because it happened that we came for a wedding in our family and we passed through the Rebbe. It was Shnat Tismach when the Rebbe accepted in his residence the Shana that Harabanit Chaya Mushka Istalka Meitanu. And we were invited to his residence, to his home. And I want to show you, because we came to the dollars, and of course when we came, the Rebbe had a conversation with us. Please, can you show it?
The projector is off. Ask him to help you.
I asked a blessing for the family, Moria, my daughter, and David and Aviatar. Now they were invited to be with the Rebbe the whole week when we were there for the 3 tefillot. I knew that there are thousands of people outside waiting in line, and I wanted to go, and the Rebbe continued to talk to me. Now the Rebbe gives my husband $1,000 for the ticket. He said it's a historical moment, and the Rebbe said, don't wait till to history. We asked for a blessing for a grandson that was sick. That, of course, Chabad College, Bet Refuah, the hospital. This is the bracha for the kid. Now, to talk to me. I was born in Egypt, so he said, בזכות נשים צדקניות נגאלו ישראל. So I continue to thank the Rebbe. And I'm thanking the Rebbe that all his blessing was the reason why Baruch Hashem that this Kefel Kiflaim, he is like a sportsman. Twice, at least.
למרות שכל הפוליטיקאים והעיתונאים היו נגד, ברוך השם, הנבואה והמילים של האדמו"ר
I say that the Rebbe for me was like a prophet, that all his blessing really came true.
אני מודה לך.
We say, don't listen to politicians, to journalists, He's asking my daughter, בזכות נשים צדקניות נגאלו ישראל. Okay, this was our thanks after the second time that we were with the Rebbe. And then I want to say that every word and every deed, action that we do, it's really a message. And why? I could come to the Rebbe and say, thank you, and to go out. People ask me, how do you speak like this to the Rebbe? Hey, it's the Rebbe. But I say, after you are with the Rebbe 10 hours, so you feel like a soul that the Rebbe is talking to me, not me to him. And of course, I felt very, very confident to tell him, first of all, thank you. And the third time that we were there with the Rebbe, it's that my husband, Alav Shalom, he decided to write 2 volumes of Who is a Jew. And this came 1,000 pages. And before it was formed as a 2-volume of a book, we went to the Rebbe to show him the book. And this episode I will never forget. We were there after midnight, 12, and the Rebbe took 1,000 pages, and in 2 hours he read took the whole book. And we were sitting there and looking at him. Then he put down the pages and he started to ask him, when you write about this case in Australia, in this law, in this year, and he started to ask him questions about the book. And I was so surprised that he really read the whole thing, because Avner wrote it 5 years. And I was so shocked. But then, for me, who is the Rebbe, I'm sure that everyone has here and throughout the world her Rebbe, his Rebbe. And for me, is this episode. After he asked him 16 questions and they were talking about the meanings of the book and the issue, so the Rebbe asked him a question and he pointed like he agreed, and another question, and Avner answered, and then the Rebbe raised his finger and he said, Achidush. I didn't know these 2 things. And I went out and I decided myself that I am a soldier in the Chabad army that is so meaningful to the Jewish nation. And I want to say something personal. You saw the video. My late husband passed away 10 years ago. And his birthday is Kaf Aleph Shvat. Harabanit, it's Kaf Bet Shvat when she istalka meitanu. And I was invited to come to Kfar Saba to give a Didvadut. And it was the first birthday of my husband that he was not with us. Motzei Kaf Aleph Shvat. And I came at midnight at home and I got this very unique telephone. It was a voice that says, my name is Tamir Goodman. I'm a sportsman and I'm a basketball player. I played in the United States in the IBM. NBA, sorry. You know how much sport I know. So, of course, NBA. Now, he was a frum player. Every time his skipper fell down, it was like to stop the game, and he took and put back his skipper, and the game continued. So Maccabi Tel Aviv decided why to leave him in the United States. We will invite him to come to Maccabi Tel Aviv. So he came and he played, and after few months, he got a terrible disease. He had this terrible disease in his knees, and he couldn't play anymore. And of course, he needed to make a very crucial operation. But in the United States, who will touch Tamir Goodman, the Jewish JJ, they called him? No one wanted to operate him, and his mother was crying and asking. And then one doctor said, in one condition, that you sign that I'm not responsible for the results. She said, okay, Bezrat Hashem yeh beseder. So a day before, he went to the Ohel, and he wrote to the Rebbe a letter, and he said, I know that everyone has his shlichut, and I'm very, very good in sport, and I wanted to make a Kiddush Hashem by sport, and this was happening. I need to go to an operation, and all the journalists in Israel, you know how mean they are, and they say, who needed to buy this gingy? Who needed to pay all this money for him? And you know, all the other comments. And okay, he finished his letter to the Rebbe, and then he raised his eyes, and he saw, you know, in the Ohel, there are videos running all the time, millions of videos. And then he saw a lady saying to the Rebbe, I want to thank you for the blessing to my husband, that you said that he's like a sportsman. Oh my goodness, this is what he wrote. And then I say that all the journalists was against. I said, oh my goodness, this is number 2 what I write. But the blessing of the Rebbe worked, and my husband, of course, became the head of the party and minister, whatever. Now he felt like I was his shaliach. And he came to the operation the next day, and the doctor was so serious to tell him, you know, it's only one of 100,000 that this operation will succeed. And he said, I don't need you. You do your job. I got already the message. The Rebbe blessed me. Yesterday he sent me a shaliach. Baruch Hashem, the operation succeeded very, very good, 100%. But he was looking, who is the lady to say that you were my shaliach? He was looking for me 2 years, and he didn't know. But at that day, when I was in Kfar Saba, and I gave this presentation in התוועדות לזכרה של הרבנית, so he saw me and said, this is the lady. And of course he called the shaliach in Kfar Saba, and he gave him our number. And this is how everyone can feel that you think that you say thank you. But if you don't mention the whole reason and the whole situation, you miss your shlichut. And from the other side, you can feel that you do your shlichut if we always will know how to thank Ribono Shel Olam that gave us Baruch Hashem what we have. And we want to say thank you to the Rebbe that gave us so many forces to continue and to do our shlichut in this world.